So, this happened to my friend, not me, in 2007. But she's here next to me recounting her story, and I'm typing it out and posting it for her because she doesn't have Reddit. Sorry it's long, but I want to share as many details as possible to hear your thoughts about it. We are adults now, and this happened to her when she was 16. To this day, she describes what she saw in the exact same way as she had right after it happened, and can still clearly picture it. So here goes. She was walking home from her friend's house at night. This is a town in southern Oregon, in case that's important. She doesn't remember the exact time, but says it was definitely after midnight. And it was dark, so no one else was out. She says that she was completely sober and not sleep-deprived. So she's on her way home and just about 2 blocks from her house. She was walking on the sidewalk along the main street and was crossing between 5th and 6th Street, while her house is on 7th Street. Across the street is a Safeway and a cemetery. Right then, she noticed something about 50 feet ahead of her, crossing the street from the cemetery side to the side that she was on, and this is how she describes it. There were 2 creature things walking on their hind legs, side by side. One was slightly shorter than the other, but they were both really tall, at least 7 foot. They were hunched over, lanky, and extremely skinny. She says that her immediate first thought was that they almost looked like deer walking on their hind legs, but they didn't have any fur. It was more like a dark grayish skin. They held their arms and wrists kind of like how a T-Rex would, but their arms and hands were very long, almost as long as their legs. When I asked, she said that she didn't see any tails. I asked her if they had hooves, and she says that she thinks so, but can't remember that part for certain. Everything was quiet, and she didn't hear them making any sounds on the pavement as they walked. I asked her if they had antlers or deer-like shaped faces, me thinking that maybe it actually was just hairless deer walking on their hind legs for some reason. She said no antlers, but that their heads were not shaped like deer's, or any animals, but more like a person's. She described their faces as looking human with human features, but that something was just slightly off. She had frozen where she was as soon as she saw them. Everything was quiet and there were no cars driving by or anyone else around, which is normal at night in our small town. She says that she stood there kind of in shock. She watched as the 2 creatures slowly walked side by side, silently from across the street and over to the side of the street that she was on. She says they didn't seem to see her at all, or if they did notice her, they didn't act at all like they did. She says they acted as if they were simply a couple going on a casual night stroll together. She doesn't remember feeling any negative energy or vibes. She just felt fear because she was pretty damned scared. As soon as they finished crossing the street, they continued straight down 6th Street, and she couldn't see them after they passed the first house and kept walking down. At that point, she said that she snapped out of the shock and started running the 1 more block towards 6th Street to see where they were going. Once there, she turned down 6th Street to follow them, but they were completely gone. She doesn't know where they could have possibly gone that fast, considering they were just walking, and not walking fast, but like I said, almost as if the 2 of them were just out on a casual night stroll. As soon as she realized that they had somehow disappeared out of nowhere, she started running as fast as she could the 1 more block to her house on 7th Street. She told her mom and her sister the next morning. She says these creatures were like nothing she has ever seen or heard of before. The closest thing she can compare it to is the werewolf that Professor Lupin changes into in the Harry Potter movies. Hairless, super lanky, and hunched over, strangely. Except these ones had more human-like faces than a wolf. She's only ever told her family and a few friends, me being one of them. Oh, and she also has no history of mental illnesses. but whenever I ask her about it, she describes it the exact same way, and is still pretty shook up when she thinks about it. Nothing like that has happened to her before or since then. Anyone know what this could have been? I've heard about quote-unquote not deers on Reddit, but I'm not sure that really fits because I think those are more like animal-shaped, and usually on all fours. If you guys have any questions, I'll ask her and get back to you, but any input would be greatly appreciated. I wanted to share a strange and unsettling experience that I'd had a few years back, hoping to get some insight or hear if anyone else has had a similar experience. When I first got my phone number, I started receiving calls asking for Adam. Since that's my name, but I didn't know them, I figured they must be looking for some other Adam. I told them they had the wrong number and I hung up. These calls continued intermittently, and each time the caller insisted that I needed to come home because everyone was upset and that they knew it was me. I would respond with, "I am Adam, but you have the wrong number. I just got this number," and hang up. Here's where it gets creepy. I have a distinctive voice. It's not particularly odd, but it's unique enough that you would recognize it if you knew me. Despite that, these callers seemed to recognize my voice and were adamant that I come home, repeatedly assuring me that everything was fine and that I just needed to come home. I've always been the kind of person who moves around a lot. I used to ride the bus frequently, travel all around the US, and visit various places. This made the calls even more unsettling somehow, because I left my family at 16. I've been in touch with a few of them since then, and they said they never called me. Unfortunately, I didn't think to save any of the numbers, messages, or call logs because at the time I didn't think much of it. But as I've gotten older, I've started to think back on it and realize just how weird the whole situation was. I've started wishing that I had asked them to meet me somewhere or tell me where to go. Instead, I just ignored it all. How did they recognize my voice? And how did they know my first name? Why were they so insistent that I come home? It's been bothering me more and more as I think about all the strange aspects of those calls. Does anyone have any idea what this could have been about, or experienced something similar? It's been bothering me for a while, and I would appreciate any thoughts or theories. I've told this story to friends and family, and people either think I'm crazy or that a ghost lives in my basement. This was years ago while I was in high school. I was playing video games alone in my basement with the Xbox playing through the TV. I had lost the TV remote a while back, so I had to adjust the volume by pressing the buttons on the side of the TV. The audio played through both the TV speakers, along with these cheap earbuds I had plugged into the Xbox controller. Even with the earbuds plugged into the controller, I had to stand up and walk to the TV to adjust the volume. One time while I was alone, I took my earbuds off and placed them, along with my controller, down onto the couch next to me, and I went to the TV to adjust the volume. It took me like 3 seconds to slightly adjust the volume, and when I turned around, the earbuds were unplugged from the controller and had vanished. Naturally, I look under the couch and in between the cushions for these earbuds, as I've lost stuff down in those places before. However, after about 20 minutes of searching, I could not find them. There is no way that someone came downstairs and took them, as the only way down was right next to the TV, and I would have seen them in my peripheral vision or heard them walking down. I asked my family just in case they did anything with them. Of course, they all said no. I decided to give it a rest and just assumed they would turn up sooner or later, which is kind of what they did, but in a creepy way. The next 2 days, I went back and forth down to the basement, and I took apart the couch and even cut the fabric underneath to see if they were deeper in the couch. But nothing. I couldn't find them anywhere. Even after looking everywhere else in the basement, I still could not find them. I gave up once again and put the couch back together and decided to just get new earbuds. I swear about 2 weeks later, I go down to the basement and the earbuds are sitting on the exact part of the couch that I left them. I immediately go ask my family why they're messing with me, and they swear they didn't do anything. This time they were not plugged into the controller, they were just sitting on the couch. This seemed so strange to me and everyone that I told it to. It was like the earbuds were taken to another dimension and just brought right back. I did a Google search about similar phenomena, and I learned that it's a common trait among poltergeist folklore that they will vanish objects and make them reappear at a later time, sometimes in the same spot, sometimes in another location. The only other thing that's happened in this house, similar to this, was a thing with my brother where his wallet went missing and was found in the top shelf of his closet, even though he didn't put it there. But you'd have to ask him about that. As always, this is a true story. I went to high school at Our Lady of Mercy Academy in Louisville, Kentucky. I live in the suburb of Fern Creek. Although it's moved way closer now, it was then downtown in its original building. My mother and aunt and older sister went there as well. It was built there in 1901 through 2007 when it was relocated. This meant that I got up early and boarded the city bus and rode it to a corner with a large group of other girls and walked a block and then back in the afternoons. I had met a girl in high school who was very interested in ESP and dreams, anything like that. I told her that I fully believed in ESP, that I had it, and my mother and grandmother and an aunt definitely did too. I've always had totally vibrant, realistic dreams and recall them from 4 years old onward. She actually wanted to hear what I dreamt, so we discussed my nightly dreams. I told her that many times I would have precognition, which is simply knowing what's going to happen ahead of time. Dreams seem to often have the whole mental video of events, and then they would happen. So it was not unusual that my friend asked me my dream that morning on the long, jarring bus ride. I told her that I'd had two. Both could not be just rehashing old events of the day or metaphors or something else, as I explained, but this kind seemed a prediction type, or precognitive sort, I said. I then began telling the dream. You know how we both take that art class first period? Well, I dreamed it was that class, but instead of being in the art building behind the school as normal, we were just all walking a lot outside and talking. As we walked, I looked down in the ankle-deep fall leaves that we were sloshing through everywhere on the sidewalks, and spotted a $20 bill. I quickly picked it right up. Then I spotted a $1 bill and then a second, then a third. It was very windy with leaves swirling, and we were at the back of this long line of girls, but nobody else had seen them. Then another 20 showed up, and then it stopped. Then there was the second dream. I was coming home and was at the end of the block from the school at the gas station, that we would go in to get Coke, candy, chips, or hot chocolate. We loved to do that after school. It dropped cocoa powder, hot water, and that was scalding, and then dropped 5 tiny marshmallows on top. Well, I had watched a machine drop the cocoa and then saw it in my right hand, and it was bumped by this huge group of girls just pressing in on me as they huddled around all the machines in a hurry before the bus came by. I was burned badly on the hand by the scalding cocoa, right between my right forefinger and thumb, and I awoke to the pain of it. She said, "Better not get hot chocolate today," and laughed. Well, the day unwound and our tiny art teacher, Sister Rosarita, said that we were going to go on a tiny field trip down to a world-famous place in our own city, Hadley Pottery, to see the pieces made there. She knew there was no prior mention of it or permission slip in advance, but she some way pulled it off. We all excitedly said yes. We filed into a long, orderly line, fully clad in wool plaid skirts, white rounded collar blouses, and dark blue Wesleys, a 4 gold button vest with 2 pockets, and the embroidered school logo in red on it. We went in twos and went about 3 blocks maybe, led by our teacher. Going home after the interesting tour, I was walking with my friend. We both looked at each other and then scanned the ground in the swirling ankle-deep leaves as the wind picked up. We were in the back of the entire line. Suddenly, I stopped down, picking up a $20 bill, and then a 1, and then another, and then another. And Christy then nabbed the last 20. It really started our day off interesting as we had the dough now. So, after school, we noticed how cold it had become, still blowing so hard. A larger group than usual huddled by all the machines as I got a Coke. Suddenly, this girl thrust a blazing hot cocoa at me, saying, "Can you hold this?" She struggled to put her money away and find her gold medal blue motor coach token for the ride home. I said sure. I put my Coke in my left hand and held her chocolate. Someone then bumped me hard, and as I held onto her cup, a big spill burned down between my thumb and forefinger. I have a personal theory about a green-eyed woman who has appeared in a few of my dreams over the years, starting in 2014, and then again in 2017 and 2018. These dreams seem like past life memories because I find myself as different people and genders in various historical periods. In these dreams, the green-eyed woman is always different, but always has piercing green eyes. Sometimes she's a family member, and sometimes a friend or an acquaintance. The first time I saw her in a dream, she told me it wasn't time yet when I asked her name. In subsequent dreams, she appeared closer to me, such as a friend or a hospice nurse. Interestingly, in 2017, I met a real-life person with green eyes who became my best friend. Despite being hesitant due to the past betrayals and friendships, I invested emotionally in our friendship. Over time, I felt increasingly uncomfortable and distrustful of her, even though our friendship grew stronger. Some of her mannerisms put me on edge. By mid-2019, her life took a downturn due to an abusive relationship and increasingly hostile environment. Or at least she became more open about it. And I tried to support her despite my own struggles. However, our friendship became one-sided, with her using me as a therapist while neglecting my needs and my boundaries. I felt emotionally hurt, ghosted, and manipulated by her, which reminded me of my previous friendships. She even started forbidding me from talking about topics such as my past, current political and global news, shortening the topics available to only things that she liked talking about, such as Lord of the Rings or various anime which I don't follow or interest me. And I have tried to be in order to be a good friend. Over time, my friend changed fundamentally, which made our relationship even more challenging. I believe these dreams featuring the green-eyed woman might have been warnings about this friend, suggesting a karmic connection in past life interactions. Ultimately, I feel that the green-eyed woman in my dreams was a harbinger of the troubles this friendship would bring. But what do you think? I have spent 2/3 of my life trying to debunk this one, or come up with a reasonable explanation. When I was in 5th grade, I rode the bus with a girl who was a grade or 2 below me. We lived on opposite sides of a rather large apartment complex, but could still walk to each other's homes. Let's call her Micah. Micah was born in Romania and had moved here a few years prior to me meeting her. She had heterochromia. Micah had brown eyes, but half of one of her irises was blue. This is relevant later. Her family was off. I went over to her apartment a few times to hang out with her, and remembered seeing a lot of unusual decor in her home. Lots of candles, a few altars, and a lot of taxidermy. Her mother would get very upset any time she brought friends over, so typically, she would sneak myself and a few of our friends in any time her mom went out shopping. My mom was pregnant at the time and often felt sick, so I never brought my friends over unless she was out shopping or at the doctor's. She had never met Micah. A lot of the other kids were scared of her, or felt uneasy around her. None of our mutual friends could explain why. I did too at times for some unknown reason, but as a fellow outcast, we stuck by each other's sides. After a few months of knowing each other, she started telling me that her family followed a belief system similar to paganism. I forget exactly what she called it, but it wasn't Wicca or pagan or any other common, for lack of a better word, spiritual belief system. Micah started claiming that she had special powers. I immediately called bull and told her to prove it. She responded by saying that she would shapeshift into a cat and would visit me later that evening. My family and I lived on the 3rd floor of our apartment building. There were no fire escapes, balconies, or anything like that. We barely even had window ledges. As a side note, I loved cute stuff. Hello Kitty, Care Bears, My Little Pony, all that good stuff. My best friend at the time was very into fashion and loved to act like a high schooler. The few times that she saw me in cartoon PJs, she would make jokes. So I stopped wearing anything like that to school or sleepovers almost a full year prior to meeting Micah. I went to bed at my normal time of 9:30, wearing some Care Bear pajamas that my mom had bought me a week prior. Nobody had seen me in them aside from my parents. Around 3 a.m. that night, I woke up to hear scratching at my window. I jumped out of bed, looked at my window, and saw a black cat staring directly at me. The cat was sitting on the very thin window ledge and raised its paw as if it was waving at me. Freaked out, I told myself that it was a dream and went back to sleep. That morning, while my mom was cooking breakfast, she asked if I had heard anything weird outside the night before. I asked what she meant. I saw the weirdest thing last night. I heard scratching at my window. I got up to see what it was and saw a black cat on the window ledge. It looked like it was trying to open my window. I sat there in silence, unsure of what to say. My mom continued. I was afraid that it was going to fall, so I brought it inside, carried it downstairs, and then put it outside. You should have seen its eyes. It had one eye that was half blue, and I've never seen a cat like that before. I felt so sick that I couldn't speak or finish my breakfast. Not wanting to approach Micah after this, I stood off to the side away from all the other kids until she walked up to me. Hey, Gloomy Bear, why didn't you let me in last night? I was stunned. I could have died. At least your mom was nice enough to take me downstairs. I stopped hanging around her as much after that. Our building caught fire a few weeks after all this happened, and we ended up moving a few towns away. I haven't seen or heard from her since. To this day, my mom still remembers the cat. She'll mention it in passing every few years and to make comments about how weird it was that a cat could have gotten up on that ledge. For the last 20 years, I've been racking my brain looking for an explanation. If anyone has one, I would love to hear it. I was invited to a friend whose family grew up next door to us. We've known each other a lifetime. Greg was having one huge Halloween party, and my mom, sister, and dad were all invited. Now, he was grown with grown working kids. The artwork on his Halloween decor was outstanding, and his land was quite substantial. Every inch seemed adorned with neat and cute things, and everyone was in costume. My sister, mother, next-door neighbor girlfriend, the host's sister, and I sat at an amazingly decorated garage that was huge. We sat at a table big enough for us all, and my friend, Brenda, brought over her daughter. She said, after my 6th beer, that she had to have me read her adult daughter's tea leaves. She wanted to know if she was ever going to have children also. I admit it, I was bombed, blitz, inflicted drunk, or whatever terminology is current today. I told her yes. Then, what her husband-to-be looked like. His last name, and how it was spelled very unusually. I drew a picture of him on her napkin, said his profession, and that she would have a son and then a daughter. She wrote all this down and kept it to this day. It all actually happened as I said, and I always felt afterward that it scared them of me, which was unfortunate. When I was 13, I once woke up to a really weird dream of my dog biting one of my friends. The weird thing was not specifically my dog biting, because he was mistreated by his owner before we got him. He couldn't stand men and he would attack them if they came near him, but he was fine with us and was a really good boy. The weird part about the dream was that it all seemed so real, and I could remember everything in detail. Where it happened, when it happened, what clothes people were wearing, and so forth. So, my mom told me a few days later that we would go to our garden for a couple of days to relax and to work on the garden. Nothing special. We did this a few times a year, but my brother immediately asked if he could bring a friend with us as well. I told my mother about my dream and that our dog will bite him if he comes, but my mom was like, "Boy, you're crazy. We'll just leash him and you just have something called deja vu. Don't worry about it." I was okay with that answer because I trusted my parents and such. We got to our place a few days later. Everything was fine. We enjoyed our trip, and I almost forgot about my dream. When the situation started to happen, I realized what was going to happen. I was standing like 20 meters away from our friend who was walking towards me. In the second I realized what was going to happen, I shouted, "Get out of the path! Jump to the left!" My dog, who was on the leash, jumped towards my friend. The leash broke, and he bit my friend in the arm. My mother still to this day is telling me such things like seeing the future doesn't exist. And I totally agree with her, but this wasn't just a deja vu. I had those often, but here I reacted to it. Sorry for issues in my writing, but I had to tell people because this event has been stuck in my head for over 20 years now. When I was a lot younger, I was brushing my teeth one evening getting ready to go to bed. My house layout had a staircase that led to 3 immediate doors. Left, the bathroom, middle, spare room, and the right, my bedroom. So I essentially had the upstairs to myself. On this occasion, I was in the bathroom with the door open brushing my teeth. My dad was downstairs on the computer, situated just at the bottom of the stairs. My bathroom had a shower in it that had an old door that you would pull and it would fold in on itself to open. And then you would pull it back to close it. Being made out of glass and metal, it was often stiff and would always get stuck pulling open and closed. Even if you pulled hard, it would always get stuck here and there and would close in a stuttery fashion. In front of my bathroom sink was a mirror, and you could easily see the shower in it as it was a small square bathroom. As I was brushing my teeth, I saw the shower door slam with an insane amount of force and make a loud crash sound. I turned around and could see it visibly shaking from how hard it had shut. It scared the hell out of me, and I immediately bolted out of the bathroom. I asked my dad if he heard what had just happened, and he was disinterested and just said that it was probably the cat, obviously completely oblivious to what had just happened, and he had just heard an annoying bang noise above him. But I honestly saw this stiff door slam like someone threw all of their weight behind it, right behind me. There was no wind, but even if there was, there's no way that any wind would have that much force to close that shower door to the point that the whole shower was shaking. My uncle was always very sharp, but he never had the occasion to learn how to email, though I showed him one time. But he didn't own a computer. A few years later, he died. I'd say that he'd been dead for a year when I got an email on my desktop Mac. I have an iPhone, and the phone, desktop, iPad, or laptop all share messages or photo images as soon as they are received. I had no email address for Uncle Dick. He, again, didn't have a computer. But I did have his photo paired with the contact on his address and business line since he had died. His partner kept his business line, so I kept it in my phone. This one night, I got a typical message through email, though. During his lifetime, if I couldn't answer my phone, he would always just say to call him. He would never leave a message, which frustrated me. Well, this email, after his death, said, "Carla, call me." I thought it was impossible, and then I called his old business line, thinking since his partner had that phone line, maybe they wanted to speak to me. No, they said they had not called nor emailed me neither. It happened again months later, the same way, and I believe that my uncle actually did send these. So that, my friends, was a collection of some strange and scary stories to scare you strangely? ? I don't know. Strange and scary stories coming to you this July 3rd, 2024. Tomorrow is the 4th of July. Tomorrow is a holiday here in the US. There will not be a video tomorrow. It's Thursday. There won't be a video anyways. I don't know why I said that. Well, after this week, there will be a video on Thursday, but my point is, there's no video tomorrow, and I'll be out of band, I guess. I don't know. I'll be not reachable. How about that? You can leave a voicemail at the tone. Beep. If you left a voicemail, I couldn't hear it. I'm sorry. The system doesn't allow for two-way conversation. It is a single-direction conversational system. I talk to my microphone. You listen to the words I say to my microphone. And that's how this is. Yeah. Anyways, friends, strange and scary stories. Hopefully you enjoyed them. If you did, please do hit that like button on the video. Helps the video do better and get pushed harder in the algorithm. If you're new to the channel and liked what you heard, consider hitting that subscribe button and the bell icon next to it to get notifications on all my videos. July is content heavy month. I've said that every single video since the end of June, so I'm just saying. Might want to be ready by hitting the bell icon after subscribing. Yeah. Oh, I just dropped something. Sorry. Anyways, why don't you just cut those out, Raven? Why do you leave those in? Why don't you just cut those stupid mistakes? You can hit the pause button. You can hit the delete button. Just cut them. No. Okay, then. Anyways, hopefully you all enjoyed the stories. You can also leave me a comment down below with your thoughts, how you're doing, how you're feeling, how things are going for you, how your week's going, so forth and so on. You know the drill. And you can do a super thanks, which is a tip to the channel. Never expected, always appreciated. Join groups. Join groups? Join the group membership. No. Join the memberships or Patreon to get early access content like this. And all of my content for the month as I'm doing it. Got 2 videos out today, so I'm pretty happy with that. Anyways, yeah. Until I see you again, my friends. Hope you remember you are loved. You are valid, you are important, you are the best you that you can be. Do not forget it, don't let anyone tell you otherwise. And of course, my friends, much love, and sleep well.